And just the colors that are coming across from here, from the light coming on, this is like the last twosome of the day that's teeing off here. It just has all of these wonderful things in it. On a given week, I personally will have gone through maybe 40 or 50,000 wire images and an edited version of our material that the rest of the photo editors go through. So easily 100,000 pictures to choose three. This particular picture I found interesting. She went through the area and has kicked up all of this nice blue ice, which is a little bit unusual for a skiing picture. And I think it's framed very nicely. The colors are there. It's really sharp. So this has a little bit of a lot of elements. Apollo Ono, and again, we've seen a lot of these kinds of pictures before, but I thought this was really, really nicely framed with the arm of one of the competitors, sort of going around him, and you can kind of get this feel of movement. I want people, when they look at the magazine and they see any picture that's in the leading off section, to go, ooh, and that's basically it. They have to be stimulated. They have to be moved in some way, either visually, emotionally, and if that happens, then I've done my job. My reaction was, it definitely fit into that ooh factor. It disturbed me visually, and there was some news element to this because there was accusations by the Welsh team that the Argentinians played dirty, and they denied it until this picture was published, and then they apologized. Soccer is a difficult sport to photograph, but to me, again, this incorporates a lot of the things that we're looking for in like a good action picture. We take a great deal of pride both on the content of the magazine, but also the qualitative side of photography here. The leading off section was redesigned or designed to be included on a weekly basis. 6 pages up front, basically 3 spreads. I think we get enough baseball, basketball, football, whatever is in season in the main magazine, the body of the magazine. I've always treated the leading off section as an opportunity to showcase photography from all around the world. And this was Grant Hackett, who was an Australian swimmer, sort of up below the water and above the water in the very famous Sydney Bridge. And this is a kind of picture that I always find to be intriguing. It's a little bit different. You look at it and you kind of say, what's going on here? We've run versions of this before, some better than this. And I've often described it as looking like a Jackson Pollock painting, where it's just like swaths of color thrown onto a white canvas. And this is sort of like the bird's eye view as they're approaching you. So again, strong graphic content, good color, and something unusual that's not baseball, basketball. Thank you very much. And this last one is the one that keeps me going. This just won first place. It's odd that it's in this, but this won first place in World Press Photo this year. Paralympic swimmers, where this guy, Xavier Torres, is diving in. That's his prosthetics that he's left. Normally that's used for shoes and clothing, but he left his legs there. So to me, this is all about taking the leap of faith. Leave all your shit behind and dive into the pool. Our new editor here, he's been here about 3-4 years, treats the leading off section as more of a news hole. He likes things that are a bit more topical, a bit more newsy. He also likes them to be, if possible, related. So it's not easy every week to get the right mix. My responsibility is to present them with a variety of choices. And I love this, that there was a story behind it too, mother-daughter, training for the triathlon, but just the way that the photographer approached it, the composition, the fact that it's done underwater, the reflection, everything that's going on. And when I showed this, the creative director said, well, this is the kind of picture you'd find in a photo magazine. And I said, thank you. And that's all I said. I couldn't ask for a better compliment to come as an insult. I think he was trying to say that, this is just like I don't know what he was trying to say, but we were actually able to publish it, and I was very, very happy that we did. I will continue to show things that I think are either stunning, beautiful, artistic, graphic, colorful, action, crunch, grace, you name it. If it's an interesting enough picture, I'm going to show it. Now, same philosophy. It's a picture that you feel, and it was very disturbing because his body, nobody's body should do this. His body is going forward and his head is being pulled backwards. But again, it's a very strong visual. You can tell that there's something going on here, and you can almost hear the bodies colliding, and all of these things sort of like flying off. The first few of these pictures, do make you cringe a little bit when you look at them. The reason I like this one so much is because you actually see, the anguish on Gary Stevens' face here, which wasn't quite visible in some of the other ones. So this is both, content-wise, expression, and composition, work for me. There's some motion going on because the guy's got his face hit, so which is causing this sort of distortion in his lips and his cheeks and all of that. But there's sweat and everything else coming. But anybody that looks at this knows that this is what they do when they box. They hit each other. There's a lot of pain involved sometimes. Ditto the football. I mean, they describe it as a war. It's played on the field of battle. But I think the beauty of this picture is that it caught a moment that the video can't. When you watch it on video, you hear it, and then he's down. But you don't actually see all these little pieces of the helmet as they're flying off. And also to have the ball, because this has already hit his head and it's coming back. So you don't get to see that in a video. This is a little disturbing because you when you first look at it, you don't realize that that's somebody's hand, and an arm sticking out there. But anybody that saw this race will know, and if they read the newspapers, that he actually survived. He did not. I doubt. Well, I know for sure we would never show an accident where somebody died unless it was a journalistically driven. When you edit for a news magazine, I think you're looking for things that have a much more journalistically driven content, things that speak to the story that the photograph is about. One of my biggest contentions at Newsweek when I was there was that we would show a bunch of pictures, and they would 9 times out of 10 pick the mediocre picture that was more to the story than the better picture that was tangential to the story. The better picture, I would argue with them, and would continue to argue to this day, you can always write into the caption. You can always write into the story. If you got the better picture, why not run the better picture? At a sports magazine, it's generally the other way around. If you've got a rock'em sock'em picture, they'll find a way to write that into the story. You're not going to pick a picture just because it's mentioned in the story. It's not going to necessarily be the lead picture because it's a mediocre picture. We're always going to want to lead with the best picture. Somebody in the Giants has just hit a hit, and he has just scored. This is JT Snow has just scored from third base, and Dusty Baker, who's at the time was the manager for the baseball team. This is his kid, who was a bat boy, and he didn't know enough that he was just going to go around and pick up the bat like he usually does at the end of everybody, when they strike out or whatever. So he actually interfered in the way of the play. JT Snow saw him running out, and after he, as he comes across the home plate, he grabbed him and pulled him out of the way. You could tell the catcher is trying to get him out of the way. The umpire is worried about him because there's another guy coming. Was about to try to score. So if this kid was still there and there was a collision at play, it could have been horrendous. My contention is if it's a great picture, it belongs to the magazine, whether we took it or not. But I would be remiss if I did not show everything that I thought was worth being considered. So to me, the overriding factor is the content and not who took it. There's another shot from, I think it's the Austin American-Statesman, local level high school football, and some of the best pictures, as I said before, I think are being done on that level, and I'm really happy to see that because it gives us an opportunity to pick up some things and have some greater visibility for some very good photography that's being done out there. And you don't have to be in those premier positions to make a really nice picture. When all else fails and you can incorporate something else like the environment to do something like this, both in in content and color, you should just look, do everything you can. Sometimes turn around, look the other way. When the action is going on in front of you, turn around. Maybe the faces of the people watching it are more interesting than the action itself. And in here too, just incorporating the colors and the graphics can make an overhead picture, which could be rather ordinary, sometimes extraordinary. And I have an affinity for animals, as you can probably tell. I think they make for some very, very compelling images. And animals are athletes too in their own right. There's a lot to be said for pictures like this. There is a home for it in our magazine and Leading Off or wherever. To me, this is a very, very compelling picture. Not only because of the teeth and the eyes, but of the form. So I'm looking for potential things for Leading Off, and as I said, if I go through 40 or 50,000 of them and come up with 25, that's a lot. And then we show those 25 in a room to the editor of the magazine. See,
Is this cool?
I think these three are our best basketball pictures of the week.
Yeah, I know you
Hands
do.
down. And they also are the flying bodies. They all work together as a thematic kind of thing.
Mhm.
What this would mean though is that we would lose the women from the
I know.
race.
So which of these do you like best?
That one.
And Texas Tech is still in, right?
That is correct.
How about this? Hello Basketball. Do these?
It's better.
Okay, that's a good thing, I guess.
He does it, I think, from a much more of a packaging viewpoint. I do it strictly from a visual and photographic viewpoint. I'm going to show both what I think are the most interesting, most visually compelling pictures and most newsy and topical, knowing that he wants that too. So there's a lot of elements to come into play when I put this together on a weekly basis, and then, as I said, it's his candy store. He's going to choose which three that he wants. Lynn Johnson went to the Dominican Republic and photographed these kids playing baseball in the streets with pieces of wood and tree limbs, and they used rocks for baseballs, and an old tire was home plate. And we published these pictures over 3 spreads. We got a huge reader response saying, I've got a bunch of bats in my garage, and I got some old gloves I would love to send these kids. So we must have received 100 letters and emails altogether. So what I did with Lynn Johnson is I contacted each and every one of those people that sent the letter in saying, in addition to baseball bats and gloves, these kids also need loose leaf paper and books and backpacks and school supplies. So if you want to send a bat, also send some loose leaf paper, or if you want to send a glove, send a backpack. And all of these people responded, and we wound up with 12 crates of equipment and loose leaf paper and baseball bats and backpacks, and Lynn Johnson and I used our frequent flyer miles, took all of this equipment, went back to the Dominican Republic, in this little town of Bayaguana, population 1,200, found these kids, gave them the bats and balls, and then donated all the rest of the stuff to the local school for communal use. It's a labor of love, and I've also described it as being one of the best jobs in the business. I have 6 blank pages. This is like starting with a clean slate, and I get to fill it with 3 pictures. I think it's really, really cool.